News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A 60-year-old Logan man has been arrested for allegedly sexually abusing a young boy years ago. David M. Davis was booked into the Cache County Jail last Thursday after a warrant was issued for his arrest. Davis was arraigned during a virtual hearing in First District Court this afternoon, appearing by web conference from jail. According to the arrest warrant, Logan City police officers began investigating Davis after a man who is now 26 years old claimed he had been sexually abused multiple times when he was a child. During the time period, he was 5 to 12 years old. The alleged victim described multiple incidents with Davis. Davis spoke only briefly during today's hearing, providing the court his name and date of birth. He was ordered to remain in jail and appear again in court Wednesday. He could face up to life in prison if convicted. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, hazy this evening, 40% chance of snow after midnight, low 15 to 20. And then south winds 10 to 20 miles an hour late tonight. Snow in the morning, then snow likely in the afternoon on Tuesday. Little or no accumulation, cloudy, lower 30s for the high. Snow likely Tuesday evening, then snow after midnight, up to 2 inches accumulation, low in the mid-20s, more snow with accumulations possible on Wednesday. We may have to warm up to hit our overnight low tonight because right now we're still in the icebox, 12 degrees at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Adams Wealth Advisors. They want to understand your family, job, hobbies, and goals to earn your long-term financial trust. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
Is your family visiting for the holidays, or are they already here? Well, they have laundry to do using your machines, and it'll take away hours from your family time. We'll send them to Mount Logan Laundry with the large 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers that dry 30% faster. They'll find clean, comfortable environment with free Wi-Fi internet and drop-off service, and they'll be back in no time. Recommend Mount Logan Laundry. They're at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry, the cleanest spot in town.
KVNU News Time is 4:07. In nearly 22 months of the pandemic, Utah's record for the highest one-day count of positive coronavirus cases was 4,706. That occurred on December 30th, 2020. In news today from the Utah Department of Health, the number of new cases from the New Year weekend includes a record of 4,659 Thursday and a 4-day weekend total of 14,754 new cases in the state. It's an average of nearly 3,700 each day of the weekend, boosting the state's new rolling 7-day average for positive tests the last 22 months to 3,346 a day. The COVID report of 17 new weekend deaths from the virus includes a Box Elder County woman between 45 and 64 years of age who was hospitalized at the time of her death. There have been 3,804 coronavirus deaths in Utah, 196 of them in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. And as far as new COVID cases in northern Utah, a reported 744 new cases found since Thursday. The district's total case count grew to 36,355. There are now 34,661 considered to be recovered. Within the district, 1,688 people have been hospitalized over the course of the pandemic. And Governor Spencer J. Cox announced today that Neil Abercrombie will join his senior staff as Senior Advisor of Legislative Affairs and Policy. Following Lieutenant Governor Henderson's lead, he'll be managing day-to-day interactions with the legislature and working to advance the administration's priorities. Cox said that he has earned a sterling reputation for solid policy sense and relationships built on competency and goodwill. And he said we're excited to have him, Abercrombie, join Team Utah and look forward to working together and advancing their goals for the people of Utah. KVNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
Remember the last time your family visited the forest? It's a place of wonder and imagination for the whole family, where stories come to life. And it's closer than you think. Ready to plan your next visit? Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Technology can make our lives more fun, convenient, and connect us with friends. But when tech is used for cyberbullying, children's lives can be damaged. Peter and Amanda Como found good communication protects their kids.
I would suggest, if you're having an issue, to go to jw.org. It really gives us the tools to be able to help our children through something that we never encountered when we were teenagers. We didn't have the internet to be bullied. So the resources there are just invaluable and practical.
One of those resources is the animated video, Beat a Bully Without Using Your Fist. Their 16-year-old son picked up tips to help if he was bullied.
Oh, you could use humor, you could just not listen, or you could just be kind back to them and compliment them, and it'll dissolve the situation. There's multiple different ways that video brings out.
To find more tips and tools to protect your child from cyberbullying, look to stopbullying.gov or search bullying on jw.org.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. Welcome to 2022. Our first show of the year. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Did you set any resolutions, Bill?
Nah.
You don't do that?
I don't do that. I had a goal to reach a certain weight by the end of last year, and it didn't happen, so I'm going to go back to eating donuts and hamburger. No, just kidding. But trying to refocus that goal, I guess. Weight loss goal.
I learned a hard lesson on that front. This wasn't a New Year's resolution story, but I hadn't been, I'll just go ahead and say it, I hadn't been below 200 pounds since high school. And I'd set a goal.
I envy you.
Like 5 years ago, I think I set this goal. It's arbitrary. It doesn't, I don't even know what my ideal weight would be for my height and age, but I know 200 is probably not bad. So
200 would be fantastic for me.
Well, I got down for a week. I got down to, well, I don't even know if it was a week because I weigh myself weekly. So for 1 day at least for sure, but I'm going to go ahead and say it was for a week. I was at 198. I was so excited. But the bad part of that is that now it's crept back up, especially over the last couple of weeks with all the
tends to do that.
All the poor eating choices.
There's
back up to
there's lots of goodies this time of year.
Yeah.
So
weighed myself yesterday. It was like 208, and so it's actually harder to achieve a goal and not be able to maintain it, which is a great segue into something we'll be talking about later on in the show today. This comes out of Utah State University's Behavioral Science Department, and they do this every year in a different way. This year really hits home, I think. New Year's resolutions can actually be very counterproductive. Not that there's anything wrong with setting a goal, but if you're not going to address a lot of the reasons it has to be a goal set as a New Year's resolution in the first place, you're likely not going to achieve it. If you do achieve it, like me getting under 200 pounds, you're not going to maintain it.
Yeah.
Like me not being under 200 pounds any longer. So you have to, it can actually work against you. It can be very discouraging and actually cause people to eventually give up on these goals that are great goals to set.
Well, it's kind of like you lose the weight and you feel good about yourself. Hey, I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to go have a double Whopper now.
It's so it's interesting, but some tricks and tips basically about how our brains work, how you can, I guess I shouldn't say trick because that sounds like a negative, but in a way, kind of how you can trick your brain into changing behavior that will lead you to achieve these goals in a way that lasts a lot longer than most New Year's resolutions do. Because I have, and Bill, I know you used to attend the same gym as I, so you've experienced this as well. But so I go to a certain place that every January between, I don't know, it's usually in the afternoons, about 3 o'clock to about 7 o'clock, just wall to wall through January, starts to taper up, starts to decrease a bit. Attendance decreases a bit towards the end of January.
Yeah, there's like a line behind the elliptical.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, every January. And then by February, it's kind of back to normal. And by March, you're not seeing any of those new faces again. It's just the regulars again. And so I don't say this to make fun of anyone. I say this because this has been my experience too. Not just with being in better shape or being healthier, but also goals I've set for my business, goals I've set for my personal life. A lot of times we set the goal, we have great intentions, but the big goal setting actually works against us because we haven't changed any of the behavior that would actually lead to achieving that goal. So goal setting becomes sort of this nagging voice in the back of your head instead of a pleasant thing. So we'll talk about that later on in the show. I wanted to start out with, well, actually I hadn't planned to start with this today because I hadn't heard this news. I'd been a bit out of the loop the last several days. This announcement today that Governor Cox had tapped Neil Abercrombie of Utah State University's Institute of Government and Politics as one of his new senior staff members, as a senior advisor of legislative affairs and policy. This is a smart governor. From his choice of lieutenant governor to who he's chosen to be his legislative liaisons, because if you think about it, the most important thing the governor can do here in Utah is, do what they can to pull the levers and push the buttons of the legislature, because the legislature has consolidated all the power over the last 20 years here in Utah. And so for a governor to be able to, I'll just put it out there, manipulate the legislature a little bit is how a governor can be very effective. Herbert was really good at it, but Herbert used one tool primarily, which is the fact that he was so loved by the public. Herbert could go on the news, one news network, he didn't even have to hit them all, and just say, the legislature's beating me up over this really publicly popular thing, but I support it. And legislative leaders would have to cave because the governor was that well liked. Governor Cox is going to be that well liked, but he's new, and so he doesn't have that kind of gravitas yet. So choosing Neil Abercrombie is his, and I say this, so we've known Neil here on the show for years. He's been great to send guests our way. Always made sure he's done a great job at the Institute of Government and Politics there at USU in putting together this amazing, year after year, this amazing lineup of speakers and panels. The public is always welcome at these, by the way, and the goal Neil had, I had a chance to talk to him about this once, was to gear them more towards Cache Valley's general public, not just students and policymakers that might attend a panel like this normally. And the way they did that was free pizza every time. There was always free pizza. And he made these when I first...
Who doesn't like free pizza?
Oh, yeah. When I first started going to these, Tyler Riggs and I think that was the first time I went when we were both hosting the show here back in 2008. We both went to one that fall, and that was my first. That was the first time I met Neil. And it was Neil, the speaker, and Tyler and I. And I think Senator Hilliard came later, or was late or something. But when I went to the most recent one I went to, which was back in the fall, they had Idaho State Senator who now leads a foundation geared towards bringing some civility back to state policy discussions throughout the country. And he spoke about civility, about its limitations, things like that. And I'll bet there were 50 people there. Even, despite the kind of the pain of health guidelines at Utah State University, everyone had to be masked, everyone had to be 6 feet apart. And, I'll bet there were 50 people in the room there. And it's not all just for the free pizza, but I think that helps. But no, Neil did, and he got some big guests. He got, now I'm blanking on the man's name. He writes for The Atlantic, McKay Coppins. I think he was a BYU graduate. He's LDS, and he's a pretty big-name journalist at this point. He was one of the first journalists to get kind of Bob Woodward-type access to Donald Trump as a candidate because Trump knew him from I don't know, some social circle, and so he was able to get some exclusives with Trump as a candidate, and that really put him on the map. But somehow Neil Abercrombie got him to come and speak at USU about the 2016 primaries and how weird it was as a Republican and a journalist. So he's just done an amazing job. So we should point this out as well, because she's been a guest here on the show as well over the years. But Abercrombie is an appointment that's actually a replacement, because longtime advisor and legislative liaison for Governor Herbert and Governor Cox, Karen Peterson, is actually leaving that post because she was just elected to the Utah House of Representatives in a special election after Representative Paul Ray took a job with a healthcare company and left the legislature on short notice in December. So a lot of shifting around here. Karen Peterson was a frequent guest on the show alongside oftentimes Tammy Pfeiffer, who was education advisor to Governor Herbert after serving for a long time as a school board representative and also Logan City Council member for years. Pfeiffer and Peterson would join us here on the show and talk about Governor Herbert's education policy, their legislative discussions, funding issues that were being debated during the session, and more. And so Karen Peterson leaves that post with Governor Cox's office, which she also served in under Governor Herbert, and she will now be a Republican House lawmaker. And Neil Abercrombie will take her spot as Senior Advisor of Legislative Affairs and Policy to the governor. And I think that's a pretty smart move because I wouldn't call him USU's lobbyist, but in a way, that was what Neil Abercrombie did for USU. He went to the Capitol and represented Utah State University in higher education funding discussions, in policy that could affect higher education institutions. That was Neil's job. And so he got to know every lawmaker on the Hill and has a great relationship with most of them. And so smart move by Governor Cox. But the reason I bring all this up is I've been keeping a tally. There are now more Aggies, including the governor himself, in the administrative, executive, if you will, branch of government here in Utah. There are now more Aggies than any other institution is represented inside the executive branch.
Wow.
Yep. It's a quiet takeover. I'm sure it's not happening by accident. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
Thank you for voting Adams Wealth Advisors the gold winner for Best Financial Planner in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Understanding your family, jobs, and goals is how Adams Wealth Advisors will continue to earn your trust.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see AdamsWealthAdvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
This is Police Chief Gary Jensen from Logan City Police Department. A number of scams are occurring throughout our city and county. These scams are highly emotional and demand immediacy that you pay, and you pay now. They will say they are from the IRS, the Sheriff's Office, the Police Department, utility companies, medical facilities, or even romance scams. Slow down and diffuse by asking questions. Be careful. Hang up the phone call is the best thing that you can do, and don't become a victim.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show will be joined by Senator and Dr. Rand Paul to talk about the latest when it comes to big tech censorship and also the COVID data from his perspective. Plus, Buck.
We've got the January 6th insurrection extravaganza coverage from CNN and others this week. What are they trying to accomplish with it? And are they just hoping to cover up for all of Biden's failures with distraction? We'll get into that on the Clay and Buck Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I don't know if it's just coming off the holiday break, if you will, or if I'm just really this maybe burned out on current state of our debate. But I can't stop. I'm kind of chuckling about this. Senator Mike Lee with what I would guess is, I don't really know the details on this, probably a legitimate objection. I don't know. Some proposed rule change has been suggested or made maybe by Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York. And Senator Mike Lee put out a statement, and it's basically what you'd expect, the same words, rash, partisan power grab, all that stuff. It's what every side says about the other side anytime they're in the minority. But at the end he said, this rule change would have the Senate devolve into a Lord of the Flies environment. And people have been having fun with that one since Senator Lee put the statement out. I'm not sure it was what he was intended, but kind of chuckling about that. I don't know what the rule change is, though. That's the one funny thing. I can't seem to find a news story on exactly what the proposed rule change is. I'll see if I can get back to you on that one. But and if you'd like to read Senator Lee's statement that has been kind of fun on the internet today, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. The Utah Department of Health put out some new guidelines today, basically putting their guidance on how to stay safe in the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, although we're on to the Omicron variant at this point. It just basically puts them in line with what we've seen from the CDC so far. But it's been interesting to me. I don't know if you've tracked any of this, Bill, but the CDC's and now Utah Department of Health's new guidance that taking the quarantine period basically from 10 days, 7 days to 5, it upset a lot of people. And so much so that the CDC actually decided to do something rare, which is put out an explanation. And what they said is that they're being realistic about what people are going to do. So another way to put that, the CDC is
not
basically
so much
saying,
what they should do, but what people's behavior has been.
It's basically the CDC saying, look, in a perfect world, you wouldn't leave your house for 14 days if you tested positive, just to protect others, reduce the odds of a new mutation and spreading, and also to keep yourself healthy because rest is going to be key. That's in a perfect world. So we're not in a perfect world, so 5 days good enough. That's basically what the CDC is saying. That they also believe that this is basically what people were doing anyway. that they were making it about 5 days before they'd start to break quarantine and ignore health guidance.
Well, they do say that after that period of time, you're much less contagious.
Yeah. And it sounds like when it comes to... So the Omicron variant is interesting because it's more contagious because it basically floats in the air for... Well, one study I saw just over the weekend said they think it actually... Remember with COVID-19, they were saying 15 minutes without a mask on in a room with another person. If that person's positive, you now are too. 15 minutes was basically what they felt was how long original COVID-19 could hang in the air. Then along comes Delta. It's a little better at hanging in the air, not much. And then Omicron comes along, and Omicron they think can hang in the air for about an hour.
Wow.
So that's why it's so contagious. It's basically, instead of being a round, spiky ball, Omicron's like a strip of ribbon. And, of course, at the microscopic level. And it just sails. It just sits in the air forever. So
it's kind of like those cousins that come over the holidays. They just hang around. They don't leave right away.
Yeah, that's sort of, that's a good way to put it, actually. And also kind of like that uncle you block on Facebook, the did my own research uncle. But this is, it's interesting to see this update because I think it's confusing people because we're hearing, so Utah broke a record last week, December 30th, broke a record for single-day positive case counts. Then, at the same time, you have the Utah Department of Health saying, understanding Omicron and this new phase of the pandemic, which fingers crossed is the final phase of the pandemic and could very well be. And that's complicated to explain. Go listen to last Wednesday's show if you want more on that. But it could be confusing for people because here you say, here's this new, much more contagious version of Omicron. Here are these new renewed calls for putting your masks back on, limiting your social gatherings. And then at the same time, you have the Utah Department of Health and the CDC saying, but if you get it, you only have to stay home for 5 days, not 7 to 10, like before. And so it's kind of mixed messages. But again, they explain, CDC at least explains, saying it's basically what we think people were doing anyway. And we think that clearing up the guidelines like this will actually increase adherence to the guidelines. So the new guidelines, as published by the Utah Department of Health today, if you test positive for COVID-19, any of the variants, stay at home for 5 days from the day you were tested, even if you don't have symptoms or feel sick. After 5 days, you can leave your house, but they recommend you only do so in a mask. And that's 5 days after you're fever-free. So if you happen to have a fever, at that point, 5 days doesn't apply to you. If you have no symptoms, 5 days from your test date. If you do have symptoms, especially a fever, then it's 5 days after those symptoms go away, especially a fever. That seems to be key. And that's fever-free without medicine, by the way. So that's 5 days. Wear a mask around others for an additional 5 days is what they're recommending if you do end your home isolation after 5 days of testing positive. For those who are exposed, here's a big change. If you are exposed, if you're alerted that you've been exposed to COVID-19, first off, the Utah Department of Health says quarantine guidelines are going to really depend on a person's age, health, and specific personal situation. But the general rule or the general advisement from the Utah Department of Health is a recommendation that anyone who is exposed to COVID-19, of course, get tested within 5 days of their exposure, before 5 days are up, and to start wearing a mask the minute, if you're not already, wear a mask the minute you're alerted to that potential exposure. But they're not recommending quarantine or isolation anymore if you're exposed. So, but what's interesting about this is it's basically an acknowledgement that Omicron is just going to go around. It's just going to make the rounds. And of course, your best defense, the data is holding up on this, is 2 doses with a booster of Pfizer or Moderna, 2 doses within 2 months of each other of the J&J vaccine, Those are still your best defenses. Omicron doesn't seem to care a lot about what's referred to as natural immunity, having had the virus before. Seems to be just completely ignoring that, actually. And Utah Department of Health also recommending anyone younger than 18 who is up to date with their COVID-19 vaccinations doesn't need to quarantine at home. These individuals continue to go to school and work and participate in activities, but should wear a mask for the 10 days after their exposure. And, of course, that changes and should be something you deal directly with a doctor on should they actually test positive for COVID-19. Still estimate, the Utah Department of Health is still estimating that Omicron will be the dominant version of COVID-19 here in Utah within the next 2 weeks. And, again, record-setting data of case counts backs that up. Obviously, it's here with this type of spread. 4,706 new cases in one day. That was December 30th. And then over the 4-day, was it 4 days? The announcement today was, 4-day weekend was what was totaled in today's report. So today,
they didn't issue
14,000 cases.
Yeah, they didn't have a report Friday.
Yeah, so this includes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into today. So 14,000 cases for that one. But obviously, case count is way up, setting a record here in Utah, and that's to be expected. And if you want to see those numbers, coronavirus.utah.gov. If you want to see the new guidance from the Utah Department of Health, I've linked to that on our Facebook page as well. And we'll be back after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News. News time is 4:36, and the news is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Governor Spencer J. Cox announced Monday that Neil Abercrombie will join his senior staff as Senior Advisor of Legislative Affairs and Policy. Following Lieutenant Governor Henderson's lead, he'll be managing day-to-day interactions with the legislature and working to advance the administration's priorities. Cox said that, quote, Neil has earned a sterling reputation for his solid policy sense and relationships built on competency and goodwill. We're excited to have him join Team Utah and look forward to working together and advancing our goals for the people of Utah. End of quote. Abercrombie has been Vice President of Government Relations for Utah State University since 2016, where he also served as Director of Government Relations. Prior to that, he was Public Finance and Policy Analyst for the Utah League of Cities and Towns and an adjunct professor at the University of Utah. A Louisiana federal judge has ruled that President Biden cannot require teachers in the Head Start early education program to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The decision hands a victory to 24 states that had sued the federal government. U.S. District Judge Terry Doty wrote Saturday that the administration unlawfully bypassed Congress when ordering that workers in the Head Start programs be vaccinated by January 31st. Head Start is a federally funded program that promotes education for children under the age of 6 who are from low-income families. It was not immediately clear whether the federal government would appeal the decision to the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. And Intermountain Healthcare reported Utah's first baby of 2022 was a girl named Piper England, who was born at Logan Regional Hospital. Piper was born at 1:03 a.m. Her parents are Bethany and Scott England of Logan, and she weighed in at a healthy 7 pounds and is 19 inches long. Bethany said she was not due until January 20th, but Piper decided to make an early entrance, according to a statement from Intermountain. Scott said that the process went smoothly. Mountain Star reported its New Year baby, Everly Rose, born at 1:14 a.m., and a set of twins were born at 6:15 a.m. at University of Utah Hospital. KBNU News Time is 4:39.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU weather tonight, mostly cloudy, hazy this evening, 40% chance of snow after midnight, low 15 to 20, south winds 10 to 20 miles an hour late tonight. Snow in the morning, snow likely in the afternoon, little or no accumulation, high in the lower 30s. We've been in the ice box today. It's only been to 14, and right now it's 13 degrees at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Berenson Caldwell. When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal advice. It's time for you to get the bear. Berenson Caldwell. Visit berensonlaw.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Markets picked up where they left off in 2021, with U.S. equities trading higher to start the week. There were no specific headlines behind today's move, but markets remain focused on COVID-19 trends as well as the outlook for Fed policy, both of which will be influential drivers of stock and bond market performance this year. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed up 247 points at 36,585. The Nasdaq closed up 188 points at 15,833. The S&P 500 closed up 30 points at 4,797. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.64%, higher by 0.12 percentage points. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was down 1.11 to 113.04. Wells Fargo was up 2.75 to 50.73. Walmart was down 0.04 to 144.65. Apple was up 4.44 to 182.01. Walt Disney was up 1.87 to 156.76. Autoliv was up 0.91 to 104.32. Northrop Grumman was down 1.54 to 385.53. Zions was up 1.08 to 64.24. Amazon was up 73.75 to 3,408.09. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
NMLS 1817019.
This is Rod with LendRight Mortgage. Thanks to record high home prices, the new conventional loan limit just increased by almost $100,000. So now, anywhere in Utah, you can buy or refi with a conventional loan of up to $647,200. LendRight Mortgage can lock and close on this new limit now. We back our loans with our $1,000 lowest rate guarantee. And with record home values in Utah, those who had less than 20% equity before 2021 likely have enough equity now to get rid of mortgage insurance. Refi using your new value and get rid of wasteful mortgage insurance. Do it with our Freedom Loan and pay zero closing costs. Get a rate in the ones on 8 to 15-year terms. Rates are still in the twos for 16 to 30-year terms. Call 801-APPROVE or visit LendRightMortgage.com.
Logan Dental Associates has been serving Cache Valley for over 20 years. They are excited to announce the addition of Dr. Brandon Preby, hygienist Emily Preby, and Dr. Curtis Taylor. Dr. Preby and Dr. Taylor will also continue to work at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Now allow for increased hours and advanced services at Logan Dental Associates in Logan. Call and make your appointment with Dr. Brandon Preby or Dr. Curtis Taylor at Logan Dental Associates by calling 435-787-8207.
Get your heating fix, call Gary Ricks. His name was Gary. Gary Ricks. Gary's dream was fixing furnaces with a low service fee of $25. As the years went by, Gary's skills grew as he mastered home heating comfort and teaching other men and women to do the same. That's why they say, get your heating fix, call Gary Ricks. Glorious, legendary, magnificent. Gary Ricks Services. Give us a call. We repair all brands and will fix your furnace too.
Procrastination isn't a valid retirement strategy. If your saving for a retirement approach involves the phrase, I'll get around to it someday, it's time to make someday into today. Edward Jones can help. Contact your local Edward Jones financial advisor to get started today. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. When it comes to meeting your retirement goals, time can be on your side, and there's no better time than now. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
What makes essential workers essential?
We keep where you work and live clean and safe.
We harvest fresh produce for your families to eat.
We help you heal when you're sick. Essential workers help our nation run. You're in every corner of our country and come from all over the globe. I'm Marty Walsh. The Wage and Hour Division at the Department of Labor helps ensure you receive the essential protections you deserve. Visit our website or call 866-4US-WAGE.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Labor.
Thank you for being a friend.
Welcome back to KVN News for the people. Sad news about Betty White. We'll talk about that later on in the show. I didn't know she was the, I think, oldest or second oldest of the Golden Girls, and yet outlived them all. We'll talk about Betty White, though, and why she's such a cultural icon, because that's an interesting story in and of itself. Betty White passing away just shy of 100 years old.
On the 17th, I think.
On the 17th, yeah. Sad news. All right. Not sad news, though. Candidates wasting absolutely no time here in Utah. And I love this kind of thing. One of my biggest pet peeves, I say on the show all the time, are candidates who file to run, which is great. You know, it's great people do that. And then they just don't really do anything with that. I think it's a disservice to voters. I think the whole point of elections is that you have a choice. And so I'm excited to be able to spotlight some of the candidates that wasted zero time in 2022, the first official day they could, up in campaigning for this election cycle. One of those does include Becky Edwards, who is a candidate for United States Senate, running as a Republican here in Utah for that United States Senate race that will be decided finally this coming November. Joining us right now, Becky Edwards herself. Becky, I appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. You literally, first official day of the year that you could as a candidate, you started campaigning.
Absolutely. You know, thanks for having me. I'm actually sitting in the living room of someone's home who's hosting a signature gathering event in their garage. They have a space heater out there. They have treats. They've got signature packets people are signing, and we are hitting the ground running. We have signature gathering events all over the state today because today marks the beginning of signature gathering. And it is, as you said, a really great opportunity for people to become engaged in the process for the primary elections, which are coming up in June, 6 short months away. So it is an exciting day.
Sure. And you've said you're going to campaign both routes for the Republican nomination, both through the caucus convention system, appealing to delegates, but also collecting signatures. Get enough, you can get on the ballot there in that primary. Becky, one of the reasons I get so excited about this is I think too often candidates and more so even incumbent politicians, they forget that elections are also about engaging the electorate, getting people excited to vote, getting people out discussing ideas and asking questions. And so candidates aggressively campaigning, it's fun for us all to sort of poke fun. Oh, we're so sick of the elections. But it actually gets people thinking. And that's part of why you're doing this, right?
You know, I think you're exactly right. And I think that's why a show like yours is so important in helping candidates across the state kind of help educate and empower your listeners to participate in signature gathering and really understand what the process is, because we have kind of a unique process here in Utah. As you mentioned, we have the caucus convention system, which, you know, people go to, they go to gathering with their neighbors, maybe at a school or whatever, and you elect delegates who then go to the conventions for both parties, and they'll vote on the candidates there. And whoever the people are who come out of those conventions, their names will go on those primary ballots. A few years ago, a bill was passed by the Utah State Legislature that set into place a parallel path to get your name on the ballot, and this was through signature gathering. So this is everything from, state legislative races all the way up to the U.S. Senate, which I'm running for. And for my race, we need 28,000 signatures to secure a place on that Republican primary ballot. And these signatures can be from voters anywhere in the state. They must come from registered Republicans. And so people who wish to sign, they must be affiliated as Republicans before they sign those petitions. And the other thing that I think most people don't know is that you can only sign one candidate packet for each race. So in my case, you're only able to sign for one of the individuals running in this race, and we're excited to see so many people come out on a cold day. You know, when we have a lot of other things, people could be taking down their Christmas decorations and everything else, but people across the state are coming out, and from first thing in the morning when we had these packets available, and making their signature and their voices heard in the first way they can in this race, and that's by signing these packets.
So if someone wants to be a part of this or wants to discuss some things with you before signing, how does someone go about that?
Well, if voters want to find a place to sign a packet, they can go to our website, Becky for Utah. That's FOR, BeckyForUtah.com, and clicking on the tab #TeamBecky, and all of our signature gathering locations are listed there. And they should check the website regularly because new events are added daily as people pop up. We just had a woman here, and we're in Centerville right now, actually, and this was a woman who said, hey, I live in Layton. I stopped on my way home from work, and I want to hold one of these at my home, in my garage, in the next week or so. And so those things will be added to our website, and people can sign up to gather signatures themselves on that same place on our website, #TeamBecky, on that Becky for Utah site. And we would love to have people both sign our petition packets, and also, if they're interested, we'll mail you a packet. We want to engage with as many people as we can, and we'll send you an envelope where you can mail them back to us, and have your family, your friends, your colleagues at work, whatever. People are excited to have an opportunity to engage in the process, and this has been a really, I think, positive thing for voter engagement since this bill was passed. And, of course, as you said, we're going to go both routes, but it is a nice way to engage people and empower their voices.
As you're demonstrating here, as you said when we began, you're sitting in someone's living room about to have a discussion about your campaign. The signature gathering sort of forces that, right? You have to get out and talk to people.
Exactly. You do. And, 28,000 signatures, that's a lot of people. We've been at 2 different signature gathering events today, and we're looking forward to having more throughout the weeks. But it's been really gratifying to see people come out and to have a chance to talk one-on-one. And, of course, since we announced our campaign in a formal way at the end of May, we've had events all summer leading up to the end of December where we've been meeting in people's homes and libraries and different public events and outdoors and parks and things. But this opportunity to knock on doors, which I'm going to be doing later tonight, knocking on doors, going door to door and saying, hey, I'm Becky Edwards. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. Here's my vision for the state of Utah. Here's the reason why I'm running, and that's because I think we need to have better leadership that is more proactive, productive, and inclusive. Here's some things in my track record of 10 years of legislative experience that shows my effective leadership. And, you're sharing that at the door over and over again. And it's actually one of the things I like most about running for office is that engagement with individuals either at the door or at these other kind of events. And signature gathering is just another opportunity to share and then learn from the people of the state.
Just a great job here by a Republican United States Senate candidate, Becky Edwards, reminding all of us that elections aren't just about the candidates running for office. They're about us, about voters, and about our opportunity to interact with candidates. And the Becky Edwards campaign wasting no time with that here on the first official day they could do it in January of 2022. Out and campaigning. Signature gathering sites announced today. If you'd like more information, as Becky mentioned, BeckyForUtah.com. There is a list of locations, instructions on how you can help set up a location in your area, sign your name, any of those things, and get to know her as a candidate. Becky Edwards, again, a Republican candidate for United States Senate here in the 2022 election cycle. The website, one more time, BeckyForUtah.com. And Becky, appreciate taking some time for us today. We'll definitely speak again soon, and we'll let you get back to your household meeting there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's always great to be with you and the good people up there in Cache Valley.
Oh, very much
We'll
appreciate
talk to you later.
We
soon.
will. We'll talk soon. Appreciate your time. Appreciate our listeners' time, and we'll be back right after this.
Reach the Sheriff's Department Civil Processing Division. Please hold while your call is transferred to Sergeant David Chapman.
Deputy, record.
This is Sheriff Chad Jensen. Fraudulent phone calls similar to this one have been received by many citizens in Cache County. The most common scams are asking for payment over the phone because of a lawsuit, civil bench warrant, or to post bail for a family member who has supposedly been arrested. They ask for payment in form of prepaid cards, gift cards, or money transfers, and if you do not pay, they threaten to arrest you. The Sheriff's Office does not take payment or ask for personal information over the phone. These types of scams often use internet phone numbers which are nearly impossible to track. If you receive a phone call of this nature, do not give out any personal information and hang up. Be cautious about the information you give out over the phone to make sure you are not the next victim of a scam.
He won't come. He's too busy.
Jenny, of course he'll come.
Happy birthday!
Dad!
I know. You guys didn't think I'd make it, but come on. Could I really miss my son's birthday? Here you go, Dan.
Thanks, Dad. But today's Jenny's birthday.
Give me that. Happy birthday, Jenny!
Need to get closer to your family?
Nice football, Dad.
Give your family everything. Give them your time. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Mike, what is your deal, man?
Oh, come on, man. You've been riding me all day.
Mike, you're playing like Betty White out there.
That's not what your girlfriend said. Baby.
Whoa.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I don't know how we can do the first show of this year with the news we got last week on the passing of Betty White without spending some time on just talking about Betty White. Ryan Yonk, if you're out there listening, I know the Golden.
Is he the official Betty White?
Golden Girls.
Oh, okay.
I've heard that he has every. I've heard that he has every Golden Girls episode memorized. I don't know if that's true.
Well, of course, I heard this. I think my wife told me this research she had done. Apparently, she met her husband, longtime husband, Alan Ludden, when she appeared as a contestant on Password, his old TV show that he hosted.
Interesting. That's what a history, in Hollywood, from her earliest, small roles in movies to regular TV series. She had a talk show for some time, which, interestingly enough, was canceled when she refused to cancel a guest who was black. Would have been the first black guest on a talk show on primetime television at the time, and she refused to cancel the guest when the network asked her to, and they canceled her show. She was actually the oldest Golden Girl as well, yet outlived all the other Golden Girls. Betty White dies at age 99. That news out just last week. Sad news. Hats off to Betty White. Hour 2.